Welcome to Wedding Day Podcast with your hosts, Sonja Babich, CEO of Iron Diamond Media, a leading wedding resource featuring 7 localized wedding brands across the country, and Dan Riggs, photography and videography expert and founder of Summit Hill Studios. Come along as they travel from state to state to connect with the most creative and well-respected professionals in the wedding industry. Every episode will arm you with the hottest new trends, wedding day tips and details, and they'll show you all the joys of planning your perfect wedding day.
Hi everybody, Sonja here with Wedding Day Podcast. I am here with Brooke, Beise, publisher of Minnesota Bride and Nebraska Wedding Day, but also we are here with a great member and a great friend, Mitch Zacharias with Instant Request. Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks for having me today.
Yes, and you are general manager at Instant Request.
General manager at Instant Request DJ. We're a business that's been around for about 45 years now in Minnesota here.
5 years.
Yeah. I've been a manager, like you said, for 16 years, and we've done probably over 35,000 events over the years we're doing. We started up in northwest corner state in Crookston, and then the owner of the company, Sean, who's been the owner the entire time, moved down here about 25 years ago, and we've been crushing it ever since.
No way.
Yeah.
Sean does not look that old.
Absolutely. He is as fresh-faced
He's saying thank
today.
you, Sonja.
Yeah, he's as fresh-faced today as I met him 16, 17 years ago.
It's
true. We're super excited. Thanks for having me out today.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, of course, music is one of the biggest things, in a wedding day, especially that dance party at the very end. And you and your team and, just DJs as a whole are such a crucial key component to keep that energy going from the start of the ceremony to the last dance.
Absolutely.
So where do you begin? That process?
It's a great question. It's funny, what I find when couples reach out to us in the timing of the planning process, that I always joke with them, they've done a lot of planning, but a lot of their planning's been like, nice venue, see you next year. Nice photographs, I'm gonna see you next year. Yeah. And we're the first wedding professional that I feel starts asking the question of what are we doing the day of? Speeches, toasts, grand marches, first dances. And for many couples, they just haven't even gotten to that point in the process because the wedding is still months to a year away. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great for us because we kind of step in and help provide couples with a template and an idea of let's start thinking about what we want out of the wedding. And every couple is so different. And I think that's a big part of weddings and parties in general. What do you want yours to look like? And for a lot of couples, they haven't sat down and thought, well, who is going to do this? So
especially ceremony music if it's outside.
Oh, and ceremony music I feel is still people mostly finalize that just a couple months away. But finding out and kind of helping couples set a template up of a typical wedding day, it really helps them start to think what do I want my wedding to look like? And I mentioned every couple is different. We notice even from the years of doing this that couples that are the first of their friends group get married, their weddings tend to look a little different than the friends that get married at the end of the friends group. My wife and I got married and we were the last of our friends group, and at 30, our wedding at 30 didn't look like anything that our friends did at 23, 22.
No.
So
so true.
We want to kind of help couples figure out what do we want these kind of events to look like. And for a lot of couples, they haven't even really started to digest what that looks like. They've just been writing checks and making sure everybody's going to show up on the right day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough thing I think a lot of couples are put in, because for a lot of planning, for a lot of couples, it's the first big event, that they're ever going to plan. So a lot of questions and a lot of guidance, I think, is needed.
One of the things just preparing for our meeting with you, that you shared that the thing now is not to play the song from start to finish.
Yeah, we were talking about how the industry has changed.
Yes.
A little bit.
And I've noticed that even when I work out, it's just the core, the key parts of the song, and then it goes to the next. I'm like, this is awesome.
Right, and it's with songs, I were mentioning, we used to play 60, 65, and you'd kind of do your mixing on the ins and the outs, but you really wouldn't change the song too much. But nowadays, people's expectations of timing and pacing, they really want it to move a little faster. And some of these songs from the 80s, 70s, 60s, by today's standards, like they drag a little bit, and so a lot of times
Our attention span is like this.
exactly.
Yeah,
So-
it's like swiping.
so-
Swipe to the next
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of songs are 3 choruses and 3 verses. And so a lot of times what we find ourselves is playing like the first 2 and then fading out, moving on to the next one, unless it's like a drunken sing-along, you know, a sing-along song that everybody absolutely loves.
Sweet Caroline. Sorry.
Ba, ba, ba. Exactly. You know, that's a perfect example of one. But people do want the entirety of those songs. But yeah, that's a big change. Has been shortening and kind of making the dances more kind of meet people's expectations, like what they're hearing when they go out in the clubs. And it's really just better, more fast pace, and it gets more to more of your music, which I think everybody really likes.
So we were also talking about with like song selection. Do you have also like what's a do not play list?
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course. Yeah, we have a do not play list. We don't really collect like as many individual songs. Well, let me rephrase that. We have a whole page of songs that are what we would call like red flag songs. They're going to be like Chicken Dance, Electric Slide, Hokey Pokey, Macarena, Twist, Shout, YMCA.
Yeah, that is not no.
So yeah, we have a whole page on our online planning tool of like, you know, obviously I don't, you know, want a lot of these songs. But then we have a do not play box. And what we found over the years is couples are putting less songs in there and really putting more artists that they don't care for. And some of those artists we are surprised to find are like victims of their own success, that they get so popular that some people just sour on them a little bit. You know, Drake has been one recently. Bieber was one years ago. You know, he was immensely popular, but also, you know, some people just didn't want to hear him. So do not playlists are very important in kind of finding out what couples want from like the music from their wedding reception.
Can you tell this type of couple when they kind of select their song choices for their wedding day, or maybe their first dance song?
Yeah, you know, I feel like it's a lot of, you know, we've been doing this for so long. I feel it's like a lot of little things that can kind of like cue you into maybe the stylistic approach of the wedding based on some of the choices the couple made. And it's not always just even music. I mean, you definitely can tell, but with even like the venue, like where the couple is having it, I feel gives us a big clue about kind of like the general vision. You know, because you know, when you think about it, like the venues often match kind of the general
Aesthetic.
style. Yes, like so is it rustic? Is it modern? Is it, you know, does the couple want a big family reunion style wedding, or do they want it to be more of a upscale cocktail event? And that definitely determines, for at least at Instant Request, who we assign to the wedding. We have a lot of exceptionally well-reviewed DJs that have done hundreds of events, and some of them I tell the couples, like, some of them hate your music, right? Like not every DJ that works for us is a good fit, and that's why we put such effort into collecting not only music preferences, but we ask questions about family, we ask about how outgoing people are. We even try to find out about like how they're structuring their events and what they want done, just to get a better sense of like the energy that the DJ needs to bring. And frankly, I think that's like the biggest thing about being a DJ. People think reading the crowd is about music, and they're right. That's like an element of it. You got to read the crowd and play the right song. But it's honestly, it's more about reading the room. You know, if I'm upbeat and energetic and pumping it up in the DJ booth, are people matching that energy? Or are people watching me from across the room like, who is this guy, right?
Yeah.
Like this making me uncomfortable. And in the end, I think what we found with all events is that everything's very important in music, but in the end, people participate when they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And the more you can get people to relax and enjoy a drink and follow along with some, you know, important emceeing, letting them know when and where they need to be. A lot of beautiful venues are kind of separated in different locations. That plays a very important role to getting people to relax, and especially your oldest guests, help them hear and see what's happening at the wedding reception.
Let's have you talk about that a little. The dance is obviously the most, you know, and highly anticipated part, but you play a big role in just like the flow of the whole night. So share how you kind of guide the couples through that.
Yeah, you know, I always say like comfort is like the biggest thing. You know, when we look at wedding guests, you know, if you look at anybody's wedding, it generally breaks down to like half of the guests are 20 and 30-year-olds, and like, let's be honest, they're the best. They stay up late, they eat all the food, they drink all the drink, they dance all night, right?
Yeah.
They don't need
Look
much.
at this dance move.
Right. And they just don't need much from us to like have a great time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of couples, when they're planning their wedding, they worry about like that 50, 60, 70-year-old guest, that they're worried maybe they're going to eat that free meal and just like leave. And if they're uncomfortable, and if they don't know what's happening, they absolutely will. But what we found is like for these guests, especially the older they get, this wedding, your wedding, it's like one of the 4 best nights of the year for them.
Yeah.
You know, they don't go out as much. So when it happens,
Yeah.
they get clothes, they travel, they're gonna see friends they haven't seen in months and years.
And they're gonna keep talking how great the wedding was months
Absolutely.
after.
So they're pumped. So when they get there, we don't need to like artificially pump them up, like, you know, hey, get on your feet and have a great time. Like that makes them uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
What we need to do is help focus them. And to your point of like, we need to let them know when and where they need it. So at the end of the cocktail hour, we're
Yeah.
gonna make an announcement like, friends and family, if I can have your attention, we're gonna head inside with the bride and groom have a wonderful meal prepared for us. So swing by the bar, grab that specialty drink, find your table numbers. Dinner starts in 10 minutes.
Oh, that sounds so
And-
nice.
It
And
does.
then-
Doesn't that sound
And then like
Effortless.
Yeah, and during dinner, you know, if especially as the weddings get bigger, you know, 100, 200, 300 guests, well, where are these people standing? You know, who is giving the speech? So we need to not only teach people how to hold and use the mic, but we also need to focus the crowd's attention. So, you know, ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, it's my pleasure to introduce the high school friend of the bride and maid of honor, you know, Jessica. And physically gesture where this
that's
person's
personal.
standing.
This is why you train everybody. So
Well-
what you just did
Yes.
is beautiful.
Well, and what we found is just by doing this, it helps your guests, but in particular your oldest guests, like know where to look, know where to listen. And then their night, they sit down for dinner to listen to a speech, having a drink, eating their meal, another speech. As a community, as a group, we laugh at the same jokes. And at some point that the worries of the real world, the when am I gonna get out of here, that all just fades away and they're enjoying each other and they're enjoying each other's company. And when that happens, frankly, we talk about at weddings, kind of the dance has already been won a little bit. Because then once the dance gets started, we're gonna really look at all the couples pick out a lot of music, and we're gonna look at a lot of the older songs, because if we can get those oldest guests dancing in the first 30 minutes, everybody starts dancing.
And it fills the dance floor up too.
And we're still gonna be like doing mixing and be fun and talking to guests as they come up, but we also kind of like step away a little bit and let people enjoy each other and that packed dance floor be a packed dance floor. We kind of joke like in the end we do a great job and people remember how good the DJ was, but they never really remember who we are, right?
Right.
Like you think about all the best weddings you've been to, it's like, what was the name of the DJ? I have no clue, but I remember I danced all night. I was sweaty, we maybe drank a little too much, but like, you never really remember the DJ's name.
We were just saying with Christy with Studio C Floral that a lot of times when they walk away from the wedding, everybody takes part of producing it, but they usually go, food was good, look at those flowers, that dance party was so
Right.
fun. Those are like the 3 things that because again, attendees are not educated on how a wedding is produced, you know, and put together.
Right.
But those are like the 3. Food was yummy. Did you see the flowers?
Yeah.
Oh, the dance was fun.
And I always feel that you're right, that people remember events in like generalities. And that's
Yeah.
not a problem. You know, sometimes I think people like want everybody to remember all the specifics, but it's like, no, they're there to kind of consume the event. And at the end of the day, like they just remember if everything was good or not. And if everything's good, it was great.
And how it
know?
made you feel, right?
Right.
Isn't that what they say? I always remember how it makes you feel.
Yeah, you know, and
Or it reflects the couple that really was totally Brittany, right, the bride, or that was totally Matthew and her.
you know, and it's funny because even some of the important things we do during the night, like they're memorable for the night, but like not memorable for the guests. For example, like first dances. I tell my couples all the time, like, when you think about your first dances, it's more for you than it is your guests. Like 3-4 years after your wedding, none of your guests really remember who was in your first dances.
And what was the song?
Right, but the people that participate in them, they remember it for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And so when couples are thinking about first dances, we encourage them, well, not only think about the traditional people you dance with, parents, but think about, you know, godparents, step-parents, grandparents, siblings, children,
Yeah.
family members, mentors, pets. And doing a bunch of these songs would be a nightmare of length, but
Right.
one of the big trends in the past decade has been shortening and like controlling the pacing and flow of the night. So by shortening these first dances, instead of doing 4 dances and they're all 5 minutes long, and that's a Netflix episode, right? 20 minutes, like way too long.
Yeah.
We can kind of shorten these to a minute and a half, and for your guests, it's way more palatable. You know, it's boom, boom, boom,
Right.
dance starts.
But you know, I also think those intimate dances, you make your guest feel so good because they will hop in the car. I got to dance with her tonight.
Yeah.
That made my night.
Yeah, you know, I was just working with a bride. She had a daughter who's about 8, if I recall, and she wanted to have a special dance not only with her daughter, but she wanted her daughter to kind of be involved in the first dance, but she didn't like want to bring her out. Like, she still wanted to have that moment with her soon-to-be husband. So what she thought of this great idea, and we helped her record it, is she picked a Taylor Swift song. Her daughter picked a Taylor Swift song that she wanted to have for mom's first dance song, and then we had her daughter record it, the vocals, and then we created a custom song for her so that it's the Taylor Swift song, but with the daughter singing it.
Cute.
And that's their first dance song now. So
That's amazing.
that was a really fun project that we were just working on.
Cool. I just got goosebumps
Yeah.
with that one. That's so sweet.
And we talk about planning weddings. I think it's really common when people plan events that they're looking for this like big moment. People go, I need to do something big. I need to do something that's never been done before. But in my experience, I feel it's like these little personal touches that people really know that that's you. Like you said, oh, that's so Britney, right? Like those are the things that make people comfortable the night of. Those are the things that make people remember. And sometimes it's not like the big, cymbal crash. It's kind of more that little melody, all the little choices throughout the night that people really remember.
Yeah. So going more with trends, I think there's kind of a new trend coming with the Grand March, right?
Well, yeah, in 2023 we started it popping up. We started to see it, and then in 2024 it's continuing. The trend with all things, including the Grand March, has kind of been like controlling and sometimes shortening them.
Yeah.
And traditionally Grand Marches are like couple, wedding couple. And a lot of times it's pump it up, high energy, sometimes goofy fun dances, and really get into it. Now, when my wife and I got married at 29-30, we wanted none of that. We did bridegroom only, straight into our first dance, and first dance before dinner. Right. But for couples that kind of want, kind of a hybrid, what we're seeing a lot is grouping. And what I mean by that is like all the groomsmen at once, all the bridesmaids at once, and then the bride and groom. And then sometimes, if it works out, people will even do it based on friends groups, like coworkers, high school friends, college friends, or like plays softball with, or like, in some sort of social activity. And that's kind of a cute way, because for your aunts and uncles and some of your extended family members, it gives them a context about how they might fit into your life. And I've always thought that was a really cute way to get a better understanding.
Or I couldn't remember, that's one of Sonja's high school friends that's in that group, because you just helped them.
Right, right. And I remember seeing it at a friend's wedding years ago, and realized that two of the people went to like the same university that I went to. So then all of a sudden I went up to these people that I didn't really know in the wedding party and like had something to talk to them about, only because I found it out during a Grand March.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Then do you think the traditions of the garter toss and bouquet toss, do you think that's still around?
That's a great question. Still around, but slowly waning. I used to tell Sean, the owner of the company, who's been doing it for 45 years, I used to tell him like, oh, these things are going to disappear. And he's like, no. He said he kind of pointed out that like clothing, like anything else that's like a fashionable trend, things come and go with like popularity. So they definitely dip, they kind of never disappear, and sometimes they do come back a little bit. We have seen the garter toss kind of slowly disappear. Bouquet tosses still exist and still happen quite a bit. And also you can be in my position. When I got married, yet again, last of my friends group to get married. When I got married, my wife and I were like, yeah, we're gonna do bouquet toss. And then fast forward to actually planning, we were like, oh no, we have no single friends left. Like we have Leslie and a bunch of 14-year-old cousins, right? Yeah. So it's like, are we really gonna, drag her out and do that and then lose our only single friend? So what we ended up doing is we combined that with the anniversary dance. So we did the anniversary dance, and after 30 seconds, if we married less than 5 hours, get off the dance floor, we stood on the edge of the dance floor with the bouquet, and then a year, 5, 10, 15, 20, all the couples stood around us. And when we got to the last couple, my wife Jennifer and I, we walked out to the dance floor, gave the couple who was married longest the bouquet, and got a nice photograph of that.
Cute.
So it goes to show you, like, a lot of the planning is kind of like, it's about how is it going to fit your needs. And I think a lot of the customization that we've been talking about brides is kind of just being like sometimes open-minded, like, hey, what families come in such different shapes and sizes. Like, what do we need to accommodate your family's needs? And for a lot of couples, I think they just start off by going, this is what everybody does, but then after they get comfortable with that, going, okay, well, do I like that? Is that me? And that's what we really encourage people to do, is like ask a lot of questions. And some of those times those questions are like, I have this unique idea, want to talk to you about it? Yeah, we can do that. But sometimes those questions are like, ugh, I hate this. Like, what are other options? Is it weird if we don't do it? And that's what we feel like we end up getting a lot of questions, and a lot of couples, I think, get a lot of value out of just those answers of like, yeah, it's okay to skip things. It's okay to rearrange things. And, you know, it's okay to like change them up to meet your family's needs.
So a lot of times I feel couples think that DJs are also AV.
Yeah.
And they're not.
And yeah, well, definitely not the V, too, the video of that, of the AV. You know, it's been nice because a lot of these beautiful venues have built in video, and that is generally always the best when we can have a screen come and from the ceiling and disappear really quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, as a DJ company, we definitely bring all the audio, and we definitely bring like speakers and a really awesome sound system and microphones that we oversee. And that accommodates probably, I would say, like 90% of the weddings, 95% of the weddings we do. But when we do get unique venues that are like split level, or when people want to incorporate videos, yeah, generally like AV companies sometimes need to get involved, or we need to like utilize some of the venue's equipment.
Are you seeing video like you know how people would pause and have a video and eat their cake? Slideshow.
Well,
like, is that still around?
Well, you know, you talk about trends coming and going. You know, that 15 years ago when I got started, lots of slideshows, and then I feel like, you know, that was pre kind of social media, you know, pre Instagram photos. And now we can kind of get a slideshow of people's lives at any moment we pick up our phone. So I feel like they did kind of disappear for a little while. We noticed them coming back. And the other thing too is they come back sometimes in different ways. Instead of doing like what you stated, like, hey, let's stop dinner and watch this all together. A lot of times couples are doing just a circle of photos, like more of a decor item. You have a screen in the corner, maybe by the sign-in book, and it's photos just running all night. I prefer
that.
And you know, I remember even when years ago when I was DJing, I would watch couples come in or you'd watch older guests at the end of the night drag chairs over to this television and like watch it for 5 to 10 minutes just to kind of see some of the baby photos.
They will drag chairs over. You don't think they will? Oh, they will do it and sit there and watch.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think, you know, to that point of like nothing ever really disappears. It kind of like changes and shifts. But we definitely still see some video incorporation. We've also had people ask us about video DJing, which we do.
What's that?
Like
the music
back
videos
in music
and
videos.
things?
You know, music videos are like slowly disappearing, but like, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s, like was the heyday, early 2000s.
It's entertainment just watching those videos.
And we love them. We do them for a lot more private parties and events that are like hangouts. The one thing we always warn people about it is that it ends up turning into like a really cool television station. So people end up half dancing and then like half watching an old Snoop Dogg video.
Very true.
Just to pop in with one comment, I always like to say you're not just, when you hire a wedding professional, you're not just hiring a wedding professional, you're creating a whole team, right? Yeah. And the experience that you guys provide, I love this. Like, you have, you know, there's all these questions. There's a lot of questions, and sometimes it's overwhelming with all these questions. But I think when I say you hire a whole team, sometimes it's, okay, well, if we do the garter toss or if we do the slideshow at this time or this time, we need to make sure that your videographer or photographer aren't gone. So like, that's what I love that you guys have that experience, because you've experienced all of that where you had to like on the fly switch things up. So you learn like, okay, let's double check and make sure what time is this person done and this person done.
Especially if they have just a one-on-one conversation and you're like, oh, they just changed a logistical thing.
Or we don't want to miss that cake cutting before the, all that stuff.
You're so right, Brooke, when it comes to like working as a team the night of. You know, we have when our planning tool, we have a whole page dedicated to just other wedding professionals that are working.
Yep.
And I always tell people, you know, the venue and the photographer for us are the two most important. You know, not only for us with the venue are we checking in advance, we send them a photo of the DJ, reconfirm arrival times, take care of insurance, all this just behind the scenes without our clients really concerning themselves about it. But we ask about the photographer and if they're having a videographer, and a bridal consultant if they're having one. Everybody has a photographer. And while they're professionals and don't need our help, they working together, ensuring that they know, hey, in 5 minutes, I'm going to start the grand march. I'm going to go get the wedding party. So just be ready.
Yes.
Every once in a blue moon, photographer might say, need to use the restroom, need to run out to my car to get flash batteries. All of a sudden, things get delayed by 5 to 10 minutes behind the scenes, and guests are none the wiser.
But those little things make everything so much better. I mean, when you can work as a team like that.
You get one shot. You know, you get one shot, and that's why I always tell people it's much more It's much more of a theater, it's much more of a theater event that's like you get one shot. If something fumbles, you just keep moving and like you keep going and you keep focusing on the end. But yeah, the photographer communication, we've always felt, especially like videographer, is crucial just because they have to be privy. And the last thing you want to do is redo first dances or redo speeches, and you can't really.
And that's why it's important to, again, have a wedding planner, day coordinator, just because of the communication that happens, or there's something that was a domino effect early on, and everybody needs to be communicated to make sure the day keeps going smoothly and good energy to get to the dance hour.
Wedding.
They're kind of like the end zone. Like the dance is like the end zone. We made it, touchdown.
Well, we always say too, it's like the work is leading up to the dance. Playing music for people that have been drinking for hours is the fun part. Like, that's the easy fun part for us to like enjoy and kind of express a little bit of the artistry of our job and like really try to get more out of people. And the one cool thing we're talking about, trends and like the mixing, things shortening, compared to like 20, 30 years ago, people that are in their 50s grew up with techno. So now we're seeing people that are older that are very comfortable with club music and like when we take these old classic wedding songs like September by Earth, Wind & Fire, Respect by Aretha Franklin, and add a little bit of club fun to them. Yeah. And that's where years ago people would be like, what in, tarnation is that? Now they're like, this is so fun.
I also think we're going to see some more punk popping up too in weddings.
Well,
dances.
We're also noticing, and we've definitely been really trying to talk to couples about it. A lot of the music that couples love is just undanceable. I mean, think of some of the best songs ever written. They're not dance songs, but they sometimes not only are they our favorites, but sometimes they even have like emotional connection to the couple about this is the first song we met to, or like I remember that night we went to this concert. So we have been encouraging our couples, if they want to customize the background music, customize dinner and cocktail hour, where we have some couples that are like, it's a lot of work. You just play this theme. Like I have bands in mind. We have other couples that are like, these are the songs I want for the cocktail hour, and we are all aboard on that because it can add that little personal touch.
I can actually connect with that. My sister and her husband, their song was "Will You Go With Me?" What's his name? Turner or something. The country singer, and they turned it into a slow song.
Yeah, and the other thing that we're noticing too with the popularity of Bridgerton has been the resurgence popularity of group of like Vitamin String Quartet, where if you're not familiar, is a instrumental quartet, cello, violin players that play like everything
modern
from
song.
Queen songs to Kanye West
I know,
to rap.
I love
and
it so
punk.
much.
And it's people really kind of dig it because you can kind of add, and specifically for ceremonies and ceremony seating music, it's a great way to have like a modern touch with like older music. But yeah, it's great. Music is coming out of every corner of the world now, and we notice the world shrinking. When we get music requests, we're getting everything from K-pop to Bollywood to reggaeton to Afrobeats, coming out of West Africa, and the average Minnesotan is more familiar with some of those songs than they've ever been, and so it's fun. It's fun as a DJ to be able to incorporate all these songs and sounds of the world just into the dance and watch people enjoy them as well.
Well, weddings are one thing that everybody can connect with, right?
Yeah.
But also music.
Yeah.
Everybody can all connect to music, and it can get the different energy and the soul pumping for everybody, and connect with different songs that light up their eyes or just for the day too. So, well, thanks, Mitch, for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
I can just sit here and listen to you talk the whole time. You're just such full of knowledge and wisdom and expertise.
We love absolutely what we do. Sometimes it shocks me to realize I've been doing it for like almost 16, 17 years.
You have.
And like, but it's like, it's amazing like how much things change. They still kind of stay the same, and like celebrating people's big days. They always say like, oh, do what you love. It's like, I never knew I was going to get into like working with weddings, but man, is it not like a fun thing to do and celebrate with people, and just the diversity. Not only just yesterday I talked with a couple that was 21, 22, and then I talked to a couple that was in their early 50s, and like it's fun just to plan, and just like be a part of their days. And I know our DJs too. It's like nothing's better than at the end of the night than like getting that hug from somebody wearing a white dress and just like super appreciative of what you've done. And like, telling them my family doesn't dance, but they danced all night. And like, that's, that's really valuable, and that's why we have DJs that do it for like 5, 10, even 15 years, like in the DJing events. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you guys for tuning into Wedding Day Podcast again. We'll see you next time. See you, bye.